Have you ever noticed how, as we grow older, certain things that used to come easily now feel like a struggle? Maybe it's taking longer to recover after a busy day, or feeling like your energy fades faster than it once did. These shifts can be disheartening, can't they? The truth is, many of us resist the natural course of aging, thinking that it's something to fight against. But here's the thing: what if we could stop fighting the changes and instead embrace them? Welcome to Quiet Wisdom, where today we're going to dive deep into something incredibly powerful: the art of aging with peace, vitality, and grace. You see, as the Buddha taught, everything in life is impermanent. Our bodies, our energy, and even our thoughts. These are all subject to change. And instead of resisting this natural flow, what if we chose to find peace within it? Now, let me ask you, do you expect others to always understand your needs, or think you should have all the answers as you age? Or maybe you find yourself trying to control every little aspect of life, believing that's the key to happiness. In this video, we're going to unpack these very expectations, and I'm going to share 5 profound habits that will not only help you stop expecting the impossible from others, but also from yourself. These practices, grounded in Buddhist teachings, can unlock a life full of peace and joy, no matter what stage you're in. So, if you're ready to explore how letting go of these expectations can actually bring you more freedom, let's dive in. 1. Stop expecting others to understand your every need. As we get older, our needs begin to shift, physically, emotionally, and even spiritually. What was once easy, what was once automatic, now requires more thought, more care. You might find yourself needing more rest, or perhaps you crave different kinds of emotional support that those around you simply can't seem to understand. It can be frustrating, can't it? The loneliness that comes from feeling misunderstood, from thinking, why can't they just see it? That feeling of being overlooked, like your needs are invisible to the people closest to you. But let's pause here and think about this. How often have you expected others to understand your needs, to somehow know exactly what you're feeling without you saying a word? This expectation, though natural, can be a heavy burden for both you and those around you. In Buddhism, there's a powerful teaching about non-attachment, which invites us to release the need for others to read our minds. The more we cling to this expectation, this idea that others should inherently understand us, the more we set ourselves up for frustration. The Buddha taught that much of our suffering arises from our attachments, and this includes the attachment to our own expectations of how others should behave or how they should treat us. There's a story I want to share with you, one that really struck me. It's about an elderly woman, a grandmother, who was struggling with her family. She had health concerns, her energy was fading, and she needed more support, especially emotionally. But when she asked her children or her grandchildren for help, she found herself disappointed. They were busy, distracted, and it seemed like they didn't quite get it. One day, she met a wise old monk in her neighborhood. She sat with him and shared her frustration. "I feel so alone," she said. "No one understands what I'm going through." The monk, with a gentle smile, responded, "The problem, dear one, is not that they don't understand your needs, it's that you're asking them to." We often mistake our own desires for the needs of others. Can you accept that you may have to understand yourself first? Can you stop waiting for others to fill that space? That conversation stayed with her. She realized that instead of waiting for others to fill the emotional gaps, she could learn to fill them herself. She started by journaling her feelings, checking in with herself every morning. How am I really feeling today? And then communicating more openly with her family. It wasn't about expecting them to know her needs without words. It was about expressing them clearly, openly, and with compassion. And in doing so, she felt a new sense of peace, not because her family suddenly got it, but because she took the responsibility for her own emotional well-being. You see, the Buddha didn't tell us to expect others to meet our needs. Rather, he taught us the importance of cultivating self-compassion. When we start by understanding ourselves, when we stop putting the responsibility for our happiness or peace on others, we set ourselves free from frustration. We open the door to deeper, more genuine connections. So, as we age, let's practice mindfulness. Let's check in with ourselves and share our needs without expecting anyone to be mind readers. Life becomes more peaceful when we stop expecting others to meet our every need and start taking that responsibility into our own hands. 2. Stop expecting to have all the answers. As we journey through life, especially as we grow older, we accumulate experiences, wisdom, and a sense of knowing. It's natural to feel that by this stage in life, we should have most things figured out. We've faced challenges, celebrated successes, and learned from our mistakes. And yet, there are moments when we feel that, despite all the wisdom we've gathered, life still feels unpredictable, and we can't quite seem to find the answers to the questions that keep arising. It's not uncommon to feel the weight of expectation, to think that by now we should know exactly what to do, how to solve problems, and how to navigate every situation with ease. But the truth is, no matter how much we know, life will always be full of uncertainty. The Buddha taught us that wisdom is not about having all the answers, but about embracing the mystery of life with an open heart and mind. When we cling to the idea that we must have everything figured out, we trap ourselves in a cycle of stress, frustration, and fear of the unknown. A wonderful story comes to mind, one that illustrates this perfectly. There was once a man who, as he grew older, became increasingly obsessed with finding the answers to every question in life. He sought guidance from scholars, read countless books, and attended numerous teachings. But despite his efforts, he found himself overwhelmed and anxious, as though the more answers he acquired, the more questions emerged. One day, he went to the Buddha and asked, "Master, how do I find peace when I feel like I should know everything by now?" The Buddha smiled gently and replied, "The answer you seek is not found in more knowledge, but in the willingness to accept the unknown. Imagine a vast ocean, full of mysteries. If you try to hold all the water in your hands, it will slip through your fingers. But if you learn to swim in the water, you'll find that the ocean is not something to be controlled, but something to be embraced." This simple yet profound teaching shows us that we can't control everything in life. In fact, the more we try to control, the more anxious and restless we become. The true wisdom lies in learning to be present with the uncertainty, to accept that we don't need to have all the answers. As we age, the challenges of life may seem more unpredictable, our health may fluctuate, relationships may evolve, and the world around us continues to change. But rather than becoming overwhelmed by the need for solutions, the Buddha teaches us to find peace in the present moment. When we release the need to have everything figured out, we open ourselves to the beauty of simply being, to trusting that life will unfold as it should, without our constant need for control. So instead of seeking all the answers, we can learn to embrace the questions. We can choose to be at peace with uncertainty, knowing that in doing so, we allow space for wisdom to arise naturally. Life becomes lighter when we stop carrying the burden of knowing everything. We can find comfort in the mystery, knowing that each step we take, no matter how uncertain, brings us closer to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. 3. Stop expecting to be perfect. In a world that often glorifies perfection, It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that we must live up to an impossible ideal, especially as we grow older. We've spent so many years learning, striving, and improving, and with each passing year, we can feel the weight of wanting to maintain that same level of sharpness, energy, and ability. We may think that we should still have the same strength, both mentally and physically, that we had in our youth. But let me ask you, is that really the key to happiness? As the Buddha taught, perfection is an illusion. The more we cling to it, the more we suffer. Our natural instinct might be to constantly compare ourselves to who we used to be. But the Buddha reminds us that our value and peace don't come from an idealized image of ourselves. They come from accepting who we are, as we are, in this very moment. This shift in perspective is the heart of Buddhist practice, and it's a gift that allows us to find peace with the imperfections that define our lives. There's a touching story I once heard about an elderly monk who had spent his whole life in pursuit of wisdom and enlightenment. One day, a young novice asked him, "Master, how can I become perfect, just like you?" The monk paused, smiled gently, and replied, "Perfection, my dear friend, is not something to attain. It is something to let go of. If you focus on perfection, you'll miss the beauty of who you are right now." The monk's words are a powerful reminder that we are enough, just as we are. We do not need to chase perfection to feel fulfilled. In fact, when we let go of that burden, we allow ourselves to experience life in a way that is far more satisfying and enriching. Think of the way we tend to judge ourselves as we age. Perhaps you look in the mirror and notice the gray hairs, the wrinkles, or the slowing body, and feel frustrated. But here's the beautiful thing. The Buddha's teachings on impermanence encourage us to see these changes not as flaws, but as natural, beautiful markers of our journey. Just like the crinkled petals of an old flower that have bloomed and withered gracefully over time, our imperfections tell a story of growth, of life lived fully, of experiences that have shaped us. Let's not forget the wisdom found in our own imperfections. Every wrinkle on your face, every ache in your bones, every moment of struggle, they all carry a lesson. The more we accept them, the more we embrace who we truly are. This acceptance is not a surrender, but a profound act of love for ourselves. It is through the process of self-acceptance that we find peace. We don't need to compare ourselves to an idealized version of who we were or wish we could be. Instead, we can take pride in how far we've come and in the wisdom that has grown with us. By letting go of the need to be perfect, we allow ourselves to be fully present with what is, appreciating the beauty of life's imperfections, and finding peace in knowing that we are exactly as we are meant to be. 4. Stop expecting to control everything. As we age, the desire to control our circumstances becomes stronger. Perhaps it's the need to maintain independence, or the desire to keep everything around us just the way it has always been. We cling to the routines and the things that provide us comfort, but here's the truth. No matter how tightly we grip the reins, life is always changing. Our bodies change, our relationships shift, and even the world around us continues to evolve in ways we can't predict. But here's where the wisdom of Buddhism offers us something truly liberating. We don't have to control everything. In fact, the more we try to control, the more we tie ourselves to suffering. The Buddha's teachings remind us that attachment to control is a root cause of anxiety and frustration. We are not meant to have control over all things, especially over the impermanent nature of life. What we can control is our response to the changes that life brings. Let me share a story with you. A story of a wise old woman who had spent years trying to control every detail of her life. She had worked hard to manage her health, maintain her independence, and ensure that her home and family were in perfect order. But as she grew older, she noticed that despite her best efforts, things weren't staying as they used to. One morning, she woke up to find that she could no longer care for her garden as she once did. The plants she had lovingly tended to for years had begun to wilt, and the garden no longer bloomed as it did in her youth. Frustrated and feeling a sense of loss, she went to visit her neighbor, a gentle monk known for his calm demeanor and wisdom. She shared her concerns. "I have spent so much of my life nurturing this garden, trying to keep everything just as it was, but now I cannot control it any longer. What should I do?" The monk smiled, his eyes soft with understanding. He asked her to take a seat beside him. "Look at the garden," he said. "Do you see how it changes with the seasons? There was a time when the flowers were vibrant and full of life, but now they rest, preparing for a new cycle. Change is inevitable, and it is not something to fight against. Embrace the garden as it is, for it too is part of life's impermanence." This simple conversation shifted her perspective. She realized that her attachment to the way things should be had been causing her pain. Rather than resisting the changes in her garden, she chose to accept them. She allowed herself to enjoy the garden for what it was in the present, not mourning what it once was, but appreciating the beauty in its current form. She found peace in releasing the need for control. In our own lives, we often try to hold on to the past, to the way things once were, and to the routines that give us comfort. But, as the Buddha teaches, the more we cling to control, the more we create suffering for ourselves. Life is full of surprises and shifts, some that we can't predict or prevent, but we do have a choice in how we respond. By letting go of the need to control everything, we free ourselves. Instead of fighting against the changes that come with aging, we can choose to embrace them. We can choose to flow with life, like a river that gently adjusts to the shape of the land, rather than struggling to hold back the current. This doesn't mean we stop making decisions or stop caring for ourselves. It simply means that we shift from a place of force to a place of flow. We learn to let go of our attachment to outcomes and embrace the present moment. The beauty of aging and of life itself lies in this ability to adapt, to adjust, and to find peace in what is. 5. Stop expecting life to be fair. As we grow older, life often seems to throw more challenges our way, and at times it feels as though we've been dealt an unfair hand. It's natural to look back at moments in our lives and feel frustration or even bitterness about the obstacles we've faced, be it health issues, the loss of loved ones, or the changes in the world around us. We might ask, why me? Or why does life have to be so hard? These questions are only human, and we all find ourselves wondering about the fairness of life from time to time. But here's the truth, my dear friends. Life isn't about fairness, and it never was. The Buddha teaches us that life, by its very nature, is unpredictable and ever-changing. We cannot control the challenges or the misfortunes that come our way, nor can we expect life to be fair. But what we can control is how we respond to those challenges. In fact, true peace comes not from expecting life to treat us fairly, but from accepting life as it is, with all of its imperfections and uncertainties. There's a beautiful story of a farmer who had a small piece of land where he grew crops. One year, a storm destroyed most of his harvest, and he was left with very little. His neighbors, seeing his struggle, gathered together and said, "This is unfair. You've worked so hard, and yet the storm took everything from you. You deserve better." But the farmer, sitting calmly with a serene smile, replied, "I have been blessed with enough for today." The storm was a part of life's flow. It was neither fair nor unfair. It simply is. At first, his neighbors were puzzled by his words. They couldn't understand how someone who had lost so much could remain so at peace. But as time passed, the farmer's words began to resonate with them. He was not denying the hardship, nor was he ignoring the unfairness of the situation. Rather, he was acknowledging that life, like the storm, was not something to control or resist. It was simply something to accept, to learn from, and to adapt to. His peace didn't come from the outcome, but from his willingness to face the storm without anger, bitterness, or expectation. This story highlights a profound lesson. By releasing our attachment to fairness, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. When we let go of the expectation that life should always be fair, we open ourselves to the deeper understanding that life is full of both joys and sorrows, and that each moment, whether it brings happiness or hardship, holds a lesson for us. As we grow older, we might feel that life owes us something because we've lived long and worked hard. But the Buddha invites us to let go of that expectation. Life is not about being treated equally, but about how we treat ourselves and how we respond to what comes our way. When we stop expecting life to be fair, we are liberated from the heavy burden of resentment and bitterness. It's important to remember that every experience, whether joyful or painful, is an opportunity to grow. Just as the farmer embraced the storm, we too can embrace the challenges we face, knowing that each one holds the potential to teach us something valuable. Our power lies not in seeking fairness, but in accepting life as it is, with all of its messiness and beauty. By shifting our focus away from fairness and toward acceptance, we find peace. We no longer fight against the tide of life, but instead, we learn to navigate it with grace, trust, and wisdom. Conclusion. As we reach the end of today's video, I invite you to pause and reflect on the wisdom shared. The teachings we've explored are timeless, and they carry a profound invitation to release the burdens of unrealistic expectations. Whether it's the expectation that others should always understand us, the pursuit of perfection, or the need to control everything around us, let them go. These expectations only weigh us down, stealing our peace and our joy. Life is fleeting, yes, but it is also incredibly beautiful. By embracing impermanence, by accepting that nothing lasts forever, we open ourselves to a deeper sense of peace. When we practice non-attachment, we free ourselves from the chains of unrealistic ideals. We come to understand that peace doesn't lie in control or perfection. It lies in embracing what is, with all its ups and downs. Aging is often feared, but it doesn't have to be. It is, in fact, a time of incredible spiritual growth, a time to reflect on the wisdom we've gathered over the years. This is our opportunity to deepen our practice, to grow even more connected to who we truly are. By letting go of the unrealistic expectations we hold for ourselves, we can find peace in each and every stage of life. Remember, it's not about being perfect, it's about progress. Every step you take toward self-compassion and mindfulness brings you closer to a life full of peace and fulfillment. Now I encourage you to ask yourself, what expectations am I holding on to that no longer serve me? How can I embrace life as it is, without trying to control or perfect it? By reflecting on these questions, we can begin the process of letting go and finding true freedom in the present moment. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope these reflections have given you some peace and insight. If this video resonated with you, please like it and share your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear how you're applying these Buddhist teachings in your own life. And don't forget to subscribe to Quiet Wisdom for more content that will help you live a life of peace, purpose, and mindful reflection. Here's to embracing each and every moment with love, acceptance, and deep gratitude. May you find serenity in every step of your journey.